Paige Dimakos. There was Lawrence Taylor, right? We're talking Michael Strahan, Eli Manning, Phil Simms, Bill Parcells. We're talking about the glory days of the New York Giants. I want to talk about some of the best memories. You got Eli Manning in the Super Bowl with the David Tyree catch, right? This is a franchise that's known for being a blue blood, just franchise in the entire NFL, and they're no longer there. You talk about the fall from grace. What is your reactions to the current status of the New York Giants?
I feel like I, on a previous episode, kind of teed this up of how bad the situation is.
Yeah.
And I think that Giants fans, I know, they are not used to feeling like this.
No.
Because what you just described, you went through decades of people, right? You're talking Phil Simms, who's now been in the TV business for 2 decades, right? Like Eli Manning, like these are generations of being good at football. They are not used to being like the Jets. And they are way too close to being the Jets right now. They're picking 3. And the Jets are picking 7.
Yeah.
And I think that tees up this conversation for us very nicely because the statement about their offseason, right? The find your next face of the franchise. They got hoodwinked into thinking that Daniel Jones was that guy.
Yep.
And he wasn't. And it's time for them to move along. And the conversation that's happening at WFAN and all over New York right now is everybody doing backflips trying to figure out what Aaron Rodgers is doing. And you and I are sitting here going, why?
Yeah.
Why,
so,
quite frankly?
Yeah, 100%. And let's go through this, right? And you're trying to figure out what Aaron Rodgers is doing, who was just with the New York Jets.
In your city, at your stadium.
And let's be honest about this, right? In New York, there's splits, right?
Yes.
There's the Giants, there's the Jets. There's the Yankees, there's the Mets. The elite, the clean cut, the premium steak, the filet mignon, the best wines, the Cavassier, everything you want.
The Knicks, the Nets.
That's the Giants, that's the Yankees. But right now, the Giants are acting like the Mets and the Jets. And that's the problem. You never
100%.
want to be in a position where you want the Jets leftovers. Y'all were never the leftover organization. The Jets have 1 Super Bowl. Y'all have 4 to 5 Super Bowls. Y'all are consistently good. You're not the laughing stock of New York, but right now you are.
And I think it seems like a thing like the retread here, right, with Aaron Rodgers. I can't even believe that it's being discussed, quite frankly.
No.
I can't. It's almost like we're watching this happen, and I was listening to Tiki Barber, who I really respect, and he's like, this can't happen, John. Like, we can't sit around waiting for Aaron Rodgers to up and decide whether or not he wants to play for us. In the same way that Cam Hayward said, this is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you either want to be here or you don't. It's the same for the Giants. The Giants have won a Super Bowl more recently. They're like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
I almost want to be that friend, right? And you know, like when your friend goes through a breakup and they're laying on a sofa crying. You know what you want to walk? Get the hell up, right? What are you doing?
You were always too good for them.
Thank you. Get yourself together.
Yeah.
And that's what the Giants are. They're laying on a sofa crying right now.
Yeah.
Get the hell up and handle your business, right? And because the message that you're sending to the rest of your franchise is that you're not ready to win. Because you're sitting there crying over Aaron Rodgers. How you going to tell me you the biggest, baddest person in the building and you're crying over that one person?
And
get the hell up.
I think the worst part is, like, the Jets had this guy for another year, and they said, we don't want your ass.
We don't want it no more.
The Jets did a Giants thing.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, the Jets said, no, we're good, Aaron. This whole experiment hasn't worked, and now the Giants all of a sudden think they can fix it? What I'm worried about is, you know, the competitiveness that exists, right? And it's even worse when you're in the same market, and you're used to being, that's your little brother. Okay? The New York Jets got a lot of attention over the last few years. And the Giants probably feeling some type of way. And the Giants got a lot of attention, too. For doing what? Being a jackass and not signing Saquon Barkley. And we all saw it on national TV. They did a Jets thing. That was a Jets move. And now they're sitting there going, can we put the Jets back in that little brother position by making it work with Aaron? Don't get caught up in this, Mr. Mara. Don't let your ego get in the way. Because that's what that's about. That's about your ego. That's about you wanting to try and prove a point To who? You're the Giants. You don't need to prove a point. You have always been the better team. Don't do something like the Jets have done. The Jets literally walked away from this man. They released Aaron Rodgers. They're done with him. I can't even believe we're having this discussion, Keith. I'm going to be honest with you. I can't believe it.
Well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to fix the New York Jets, right? And in order to fix something, you have to identify the initial problem,
yeah,
right?
How
There's
you got
always
here?
A social problem. We talk about rehab, right? You got to identify I got a problem first. And the New York Giants, they have a problem, right? And that problem is this. It starts from left to right.
Yes,
it starts
does.
with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. David Gettleman. And if this picture
Lord.
here doesn't show you everything you need to know about Mr. David Gettleman, you look at him, right, and he's the one, make him responsible. He's the one that drafted Daniel Jones, right? And listen, it wasn't a deep quarterback class, right? I think it was Daniel Jones, Dwayne Haskins, right? It wasn't very many people, but you drafted him, you invested into him to where you could have potentially traded for somebody, something like that. Then we go to Daniel Jones, right? And we put him up here because he plays the game of football.
Yeah,
right?
he does.
Doesn't play it well. So I want to make him responsible, right, because he's doing it.
Yeah.
But the guy on the right is who paid him.
Yeah.
He paid him, and I think that's what we have to land with this conversation.
It's a tough situation here for the Giants because you've got a couple regimes that are responsible for where you are now.
Yep.
And that's always tough for any football organization is when you can't clearly identify, like, Gettleman was the problem, we got rid of him. Okay. But now you had Daniel Jones and Joe Sheen. One came from a different regime. Now you've got Joe Sheen and Dable both in the front office. Neither of them were responsible for Daniel Jones, right? And you have Dable, who's a hell of a coach.
Yep.
And he takes that guy to a playoff, and they beat the Minnesota Vikings. And then this guy goes, yeah, I got a great idea. I'm going to sign that guy. Because he got caught up in not understanding who Daniel Jones really was. And instead of understanding, like, hey, Dable's a really damn good coach, imagine what he could do with somebody better than him. Let's sign Saquon Barkley. Let's say bye-bye to Daniel Jones, and let's bring in a real quarterback. Can you even imagine what this team looks like if they had done that?
Yeah, you wish, right? And you hope that that's the case. And this is just the responsibility of, we talk about Joe Sheen. And I like when you brought up the point of talking about the different GMs and head coaches. Because remember, with Gettleman, this goes all the way back to Joe Judge, right?
100%.
So this has been dysfunctional since
For a while.
2019, 2020. And the Giants, and that's why another guy we should have put up here, is Mara, right?
Yeah.
Because you're responsible for hiring the general manager that's responsible for hiring the head coach. At some point, you probably should have had one clean cut, and that's the next slide. When we talk about that, you decided to bring both of these guys back again, right? And now they're linked together in this situation, trying to make a decision. And we sit there and...
Before we move here,
Yeah,
I want
let's talk about it.
one quick thing with John, right? The Mara family is an old school family.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's the Giants, right? Like, they have this whole aura about them. But they got caught up in thinking, like, they tried to replicate Eli, okay? That's what they thought Daniel Jones
the Duke
was.
situation,
David
Cutcliffe?
Yes.
And
Like,
he coached Eli.
correct. It
and all
was
of
the
those
same.
things.
They
Yep.
thought they were going to just jump from one to the next, okay? They got caught up in that. Even though, stylistically, Daniel Jones was nothing like Eli Manning.
No.
Like, not at all. Like, Daniel Jones was very athletic, could run. That is not how Eli Manning plays football, or any Manning other than young Arch that we haven't seen in the NFL yet. So they got caught up in that, and so did Mr. Mara. He got caught up in selling his organization on what he beloved. He loved having a Manning. He loved having Eli. It was like the perfect situation, so much so that Eli Manning still has a show and is the biggest brand from the team. That's your problem. That's your whole problem. So I wanted to make sure that because that is all part of how they got there, is the ownership falling in love with what was from forever ago and then just holding on to it for way too damn long. And now you're here.
And while you do that, and I always talk about this, right, that you have to be careful when we talk about football players and we talk about we like this guy,
Yes.
right?
That's why I was hoping you'd go there.
Because people mix talent and emotion when it comes to making football decisions. And Paige Dimakos, there is no coincidence. We talked about the coach situation with both being coached by David Cutcliffe, right? The next situation is both tall white guys, both brown hair, both similar personalities, right?
Preppy.
Yeah. Same
very
kind of
similar.
Meek, very thing. And so you sit there and you say, oh, wait, this might be another Eli Manning for me. When the truth of the matter is, you're not replicating Eli Manning's. It doesn't just happen like that. But GMs, owners, head coaches, they get caught up in the word, I like him.
Of
and you got to
course.
ask yourself, what do you like about him, and how does it translate to winning football games? And I think if they look totally different, and if it had nothing to do with the likability, Daniel Jones would have never been drafted to the New York Giants from the very beginning.
100%. And that's why I brought up what I brought up, because I knew that you would go there, because it's important for fans to understand that these are human beings that are making these decisions, guys. They're not any different than you or I. And how things are in high school, guess what? It never gets different. It doesn't. Things are just like that. It's a popularity contest no matter where you are.
It's the euphoria of wanting to be around people that make me feel good.
100%. And guess what? Billionaires are the worst version of that, okay? Because they can be. Because they don't have to worry about pleasing anybody else because they have billions of dollars. So they have the ability to do this. And if you think about the style of play, the fact, I remember when Daniel Jones got drafted, and I was like, why on earth are we talking about Eli Manning? This says they are not at all like each other. And bringing up anybody, invoking anybody else in the Manning conversation is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Are we serious? When you're talking about the third generation now that we're on of watching quarterbacks, and Arch is going to be in 2 years a number 1 overall pick, we can't do this. Just do me a favor. Don't comp Mannings to anybody other than Mannings. That's my rule from here on out.
I like that. Rule. That's another rule with
for the Draft Club.
Right? Let's do this. We got Joe Sheen up there. We got Brian Daboll, right? You know what we are at the Draft Club? We're solution-based people, right?
Yes, we are.
We said we're going to fix the New York Giants. And our very first slide said, what? Find a face of the franchise quarterback. They need to find a quarterback. So we're going to do this. I'm going to be Brian Daboll. I want you to be Joe Sheen. I'm walking in your office. I'm saying, listen, Joe, I'm going to get my ass fired if we don't figure out this quarterback situation, right? And so what is the plan? What are we addressing? How are we getting a quarterback? We sit at pick number 3. There are 2 premium quarterbacks. What are we doing now and for the future to make sure we both keep getting paid?
I'm signing Russell Wilson
immediately.
Effective immediately. He's already been in this building. He's the right guy to be around a rookie. I don't know why anybody's talking about Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers ain't mentoring anybody. Nor is he showing up for mandatory minicamp or anything else to help any rookie quarterback out. And then we're going to do our best to draft the best quarterback on our board at pick 3. And we have to be aggressive to go up to pick 2, because there is no guarantees that Cleveland is not going to take a quarterback. So if you want to guarantee, like Dable, who do you want more than anybody? You've never gotten a chance to get your hands on somebody as a head coach. So who's the guy?
I would say this. Give me Shedeur. And the reason why I say give me Shedeur Sanders is because I don't have time for people no more to fold up under the bright lights, right? I can't take that chance anymore. I need somebody who was born, who was bred, who the bright lights, he said, make them brighter, right? Give me Shedeur Sanders. And so he has all of the physical tools that I could work with. He throws with anticipation. He's athletic enough to escape the pocket. He can push the ball down the field. And guess what? He has experience in carrying bad teams, right?
He does.
So just in case, Joe, you don't do your damn job and we got a bad team again, I know my guy's going to hang in there and we can make something happen.
And I think we need to go talk to Mr. Mara, because I got an idea in my head. A marketing plan that's going to look like no marketing plan in New York's ever looked. Malik Neighbors next to Shedeur Sanders. Now that is a duo I can get behind.
That's the future.
That's your future. And I know it looks different than what you're used to. And it's a good thing, Mr. Mara. That's what we need. Joe, feel free to take everything I said and use it in your next meeting with Brian Daboll.
Well, let's keep this thing going. We have to talk about what we have, our subtractions and additions. I'm going to let you go through them.
Yeah, so as a big part of what happens pre-draft is the free agency component of this, right? And so everybody goes into that. We get asked this question a lot. Well, where's the board? What is it sitting? Listen, until free agency happens, no NFL teams are setting their boards.
Guaranteed.
Because they flips over, you hit the new year, and you look at your roster and you make additions and subtractions. So we've got Azeez Ojulari, Adoree Jackson, and Jason Pinnock, guys who were left and went to other teams. And then we've got some key additions here. Of the 5 guys here, I'm going to describe the free agency period for the Giants as meh
That was the same exact word I was going to use. Not a whole lot going on.
And but of these guys, who should Giants fans be excited about the most?
So, I mean, the top two, right? Javon Holland, safety, very good safety you got from Miami, and then Paulson Adebo. And so, in the departures, we lost a safety, we lost a corner, right?
Yep.
And we added safety in the corner, and I'll say this, that the Giants actually got better, right, at those two positions. And
they upgraded.
Yeah, they upgraded.
Yeah.
And I want to take this time to even go through the Giants roster, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we look at it, and a big reason why they're here. And that's
for
the
sure.
defense. You have Kayvon Thibodeau. Mm-hmm. You have Brian Burns. You got Bobby Okereke at linebacker. Then you just added Javon Holland. You put him with Tyler Nubin. You have Paulson Adebo on one side. Deontay Banks on the other side. Defensively, they're pretty solid.
Yeah. They were pretty solid last year on defense, statistically speaking.
They kept the team in there.
But when we look at the other side of the football, okay, that's why when you notice when we go to team needs, there will be a lot of offensive positions here because you were either ranked 31st or 32nd. So
and there's only 32 teams. So
correct.
31st and 32. Yes. You're at the bottom of the
bottom.
So
that means last or second place to last, right? It's not very good. You'll notice that there is a lot of offensive positions here, 4 of the 5, right? And that's because this team needs a lot of help, and you've got a head coach who's an offensive guy. And you've got, at the end of the day, that top spot, Keith.
You got to address it.
It don't matter. Everything else doesn't matter if you continue to go down this path of flailing post-Eli Manning. Because that's what they've been doing. They've been flailing. And last year was their, okay, we got to figure out what we have in Daniel Jones. And oh, boy, did they find out. Oh, boy, did they find out.
I want to stay here because when it talks about team needs and roster construction, right, the issue is this. This is why quarterback is by far their number one option and situation. In the past 3 years, they've drafted Malik Neighbors. Yep. They drafted Wan'Dale Robinson high, and they drafted Jalen Hyatt. Mm-hmm. You don't even know what those guys are because you don't have anybody to get them the football. No. They're just running fast, wide open by their damn self, right? They are killing it on the Apple Watch, right? Their cardio is through the roof.
100%.
They just don't have any production to match it, right? You can't tell that they're wide open.
And they're pissed off, too. Yeah. Like, the worst thing you could do to a wide receiver in their confidence is never get them the ball.
Well, and this, you want to know why? Because everybody gets mad with wide receivers, right? But think about the essence of this. That you go out there and you do your job, and then you get no credit for it. You get nothing for it. It's basically like doing your job and not getting paid. And nobody wants to do that.
No. And I thought Devontae Adams did an incredible job in the receiver docuseries describing what it's like because he walked through, like, people label receivers as divas, but the reality is they can go block, right? And it was actually George Kittle that talked about this too. Mm-hmm. They both did. That you can do everything right, and then the ball gets sailed over your head, right? Like you were just talking about. And no matter what, all they show is the receiver on camera going like this, like throwing their hands up, when they should be showing the quarterback who made the horrible throw, who missed that throw. After they put their body on the line, they're going over the middle. They're prepared to get lit up, okay, as a wide receiver. And that's the thing is, like, you can't really be mad at them. And this last year, I think Malik Neighbors ended up with 1,200 yards, which I don't even understand how that happened. Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you.
I seen a couple plays. He threw the ball to himself.
I think that must have been it. The second
running back. Oh, you know what this is? You got to right your wrongs, baby. You got to right your wrongs.
You better draft 2 running backs. That's all I got to say. This is a great class for that, too.
You got rid of Saquon Barkley. You better right your wrongs. And this is so important. And this is for them. And back to the last slide, right? This is for a couple slides ago when we had the slide of Joe Sheen and Brian Daboll. Yeah. This is about y'all earning back the respect, right? This is for y'all respect.
In your locker room,
yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. To be able to, like, you know what, we let Saquon go a year ago. He went and became damn near the league MVP and ran the Philadelphia Eagles to a Super Bowl. Yeah. We look like complete idiots.
No, they look like they don't. Let me be clear, since I was Joe Sheen earlier. I look like I don't know anything about football. That's what it, like, quite frankly, that was so bad that Hard Knocks is no longer happening in the offseason.
In the NFL.
They're not doing it.
They jumped to college.
Yeah.
That moment was so embarrassing.
It's so bad.
That they jumped to college and said, like no other NFL team wanted any parts of that. So
they went to Bill Belichick. Yeah. Bill Belichick said, come on down. I got a 24-year-old girlfriend that I want to show off in this Hard Knocks. And everybody went, yeah, I think I'm with it. And Joe Sheen, dear God, you could not possibly have gotten more embarrassed because the owner of your team said on camera, what could not happen. And then
it
not only happened,
you want to know
it happened in the worst way.
I think Mara is a pretty good guy, and I'm going to tell you why. Because
I would have fired Joe Sheen's ass. I'm going to tell you that right now.
So this is why I think he's a good guy, is because I think that he feels bad.
That they let them do that.
No, for that moment.
Yeah.
And remember when Mara sat there and said and was like, hey, I would really hate to see Saquon Barkley. And he kind of put it on Joe Sheen, right? And then that moment went viral and it went out there. And I think that's the only reason why they're back, because he felt bad and was like, you know what? I really want to give him one more shot because I feel bad because I felt like I almost threw him under the bus.
Oh,
that's the only reason why I think he still has a job.
Wow. I didn't even think about that until now. And like,
he feels guilty.
Yeah, he does, probably. And like, the component of that I get, but at the same token, like, nah, he's a grown-ass man. He made a decision.
Yeah, he made that.
And not only
you told
that,
him how you felt.
Not only that, but they had that entire dialogue. You remember the scene where they're sitting in there in the scouting office, and one of the younger guys was like, "Are we sure nobody's gonna pay Saquon Barkley? Like, are we really sure nobody's gonna do it?" And he was like, "Yeah, no, that's not gonna happen.
Nobody pays running backs."
Yeah,
okay.
And it was like, and he kept asking, like he was bordering on a little like, okay, you're going to get your ass put in line because he kept asking. But, like, how good does that guy feel now?
Right.
Like, you should be the GM, bro. Like, you should be running the team.
And that's the exact reason why they have to get that right. You
Yeah,
know why?
they have to.
Because you just say that guy should be the GM. How many Giants fans? And this is the worst. God. Whenever you're doing your job, right, especially working in football, the worst thing you want is for fans to feel like they can do your job better. That's the worst thing. That's when you're on your way out. When they feel like, you know what, this guy's a complete idiot and I can do what he's doing.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. I think anybody with eyes could evaluate that Saquon Barkley was a very important part of that team. And I think you got caught up in the analytics part of football, and people got, and it's not, I want to be clear, this is not a Giants exclusive conversation.
Oh,
This was, there's a lot of revisionist history happening this draft class.
Ducking the smoke right now.
Yeah, but let me be clear. All of the draft community, y'all deserve it. Like, y'all deserve it. Because y'all were leading the charge on the let's not pay running backs. We don't need running backs. And now y'all look stupid as hell.
Yep, literally. That's why a lot of them quiet. You can't say anything.
Yeah, and that's the part is like, it's all part of a big system because everybody's reading what the media is saying and the owners are getting a little upset and worked up and they're going down and talking to the GMs. And then we've got access from Hard Knocks that we've never had. And now we're not going to get that access because ever. And honestly, I don't blame them and I don't really want for them the ability to see that again because it was that bad.
Honestly,
you want it.
I want to see.
I know you do.
I know you do.
You want that. You want to see how bad they are.
Yeah, because I obviously worked at LSU, did the thing with the Tampa Bay Bucks, right? And so like I kind of know.
But that's what I mean. Like you and I know that this is how it is.
But
you want to tattle. You want to tattle.
I don't want to tattle. I just want to see it. I'm like, because we see, like me and you, we sit back and we don't know all of the information, right? But as things unfold, we be like, if shit don't make sense,
it's probably not. Yeah,
it's usually stupid shit, right?
100%.
Like if it don't make sense
for a reason,
surface level wise, and you're like, oh, that makes sense. It's usually stupid shit that's going on.
I'm with that.
And I just appreciated seeing the stupid shit on camera.
Honestly, Chicago Bears, I'd love to see what y'all are doing every day, just to make sure y'all are doing the right things.
Sure they get it right.
Just to make sure they're getting it right.
I think they all need reality checks. I think they, you know what I'm saying? Situation of checks and balances.
I'm with that, but let's talk O-line, D-line.
Yeah, O-line, I think just continue to getting better in the trenches, right? Offensive line, the Evan Neal situation. First, let me say this. Evan Neal is a left tackle.
Thank you, period.
So trade him away, and then you need to go ahead and find a right tackle. Interior offensive line you need to address. Defensive line.
Can we talk about, but quickly, this offensive line problem dates back to the Gettleman era.
Yeah.
It's been a problem for them literally since he was there. I remember this conversation constantly over and over again. It's like, well, yeah, Saquon Barkley can't run. Well, yeah, because he's running behind a bad offensive line. Yep. Like, look at what he did in Philadelphia. It's all a part of football. And the trenches have always been the most important part of football. I do not understand why we got it twisted. And the Cincinnati Bengals, y'all are messing with fire. I'm just telling you right now. Better be careful.
Oh, nah,
Better be careful.
Nah, we got to pay Joe Shiesty.
We're going to do that Fix My Franchise next. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Never seen a good Joe without Jamar Chase,
Yeah,
baby.
and I'm not going to see a healthy Joe very soon. I can tell you that much. But let's talk about the D-line.
Yeah, D-line, listen, we talked about the edge rusher, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau. They're in a very good situation
100%.
with the edge rushers. It's just about improving the interior defensive line, right? Your defensive ends if y'all run an odd front. And so there are a couple guys, and we got a mock draft coming.
Yeah, we do.
And a couple guys that I think that they should have in mind to be able to get second, third round, fourth round, especially with
of depth.
Yeah, a lot of depth. Yep. And then,
I think the fifth, that's the one I'm most excited about because there's so many tight ends in this class.
And they Theo Johnson can come in and, out of Penn State. He definitely can help. But I think going 2 tight ends, right, has obviously been a trend in the NFL. But
great for a rookie.
If you find good value, right, and you're talking about potentially a guy like I'm about to make you happy with this one, a Thomas Fedoni out of Nebraska, right, that you can find in a good dude. Just in a good situation. Potentially if you can grab a Mason Taylor, the son of a Hall of Famer, right? You just want to get one of those guys and continue to build the culture. And all of your weapons don't necessarily have to be wide receivers.
No, and you need ball players.
Yeah,
you need dudes. You need some guys who are gonna like you need to identify yourself because New York this is a cold weather, outdoor, tough place to play. And they forgot that. Because trading away Saquon Barkley was an indicator that you forgot that that's how you win football in New York. And that's what you need to get back to. And this is reflective of that. And I think this upcoming thing that we're gonna show here, right?
Let's go.
Let's just break a little news on the old draft club. Now, there has been a hiatus of the king of the mock draft simulator community. But the king is back. And the king's about to come back right before the draft. And I'm very excited for our fans to get the mock draft simulator and be able to mess around with it. Keith has been doing so much work to get all these reports in there. Jamie Eisner, shout out to our guy who's been helping him. Y'all have been doing so much work to make sure that this is the best version for the fans possible. So what we did was, on our beta version, right, we wanted to give a little teaser. So we did a little mock draft, Keith and I, before we got out here. And, man, this fell very nicely to us, Keith. This fell very nicely to us.
Oh, yeah, 100%. You're talking about one of the most accurate or the most accurate mock draft.
No, the most accurate mock draft simulator. I'm gonna say the with a capital THE.
You see what we was able to do right here, and that's grab Shedeur Sanders,
which should be the number one thing.
Yep, number one option is what you want to do. You got somebody. You said earlier, right? You told me you was gonna bring in Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
We got our immediate guy, then we have our guy for the future.
Can I play out a scenario here?
Yep.
It's one that I think is important, right? So, scenario 1. If Cam Ward goes 1 and Shedeur Sanders goes 2, you've got Russell Wilson. What are they doing at 3?
Whew. So I think that's
because I think it's a very realistic possibility.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important that you grab Russell Wilson because now you have options.
Yeah.
And what you can do is you can sit there and say you can kick the tires on Jalen Milroe, Mr. 437 himself, our guy, or you can look at Jackson Dart, or you can wait to the second round, right, and then you can go maybe a Will Howard or something like that. So that's why, and as we talk about the GM position and what they're doing, waiting on Aaron Rodgers is not the answer.
No.
Go grab your veteran now because you're sitting at pick 3, not pick 2.
And I think that's where I'm like, I don't want them to reach, right, in this situation because you don't, quite frankly, GM and head coach, they don't have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
So you got to at least kick the tires on what it would take to move up to 2 or 1 to make sure you get your guy. If you decide you want that guy, you go get him because you haven't done that. You haven't. Since Eli Manning, you haven't had a guy. So if there's somebody that Dable fully believes in, I think they really got to figure out trying to do that because at 3, you're not guaranteed that you're going to get that. They're just not. No. And I think there's a very good chance that shakes out this way where they're sitting there going, okay. So if they are there, who's the non-QB they draft at 3 if that situation played out?
That's tough. I've heard people mention Travis Hunter.
Okay.
I just don't know how much Travis Hunter helps you at this moment. You
have 2 corners. You
drafted Deontay Banks. You signed Paulson Adebo. Then you look at the wide receiver situation. You have a one in Malik Neighbors already.
Yep.
You have gadget guys in Wandale, Jalen Hyatt.
That's why this conversation is interesting, though.
So if Abdul Carter is there, I look at Abdul. If you're talking about potentially now you bump up the offensive line situation, right, and you try to grab a Will Campbell or somebody like that. So it's different.
Do you try and trade out?
I would even try to trade down because
then you take a Milroe later on.
Yeah, and you could acquire more picks, right? And that'll be a major key. But I think what you said, right, is key is that if you want a quarterback, you got to go up. You got to go get him. And you're only moving up one spot, right? So if the Browns are asking for something ridiculous, guess what? Now you have your leverage back. And I think that's the part with the Giants. What you don't want to be stuck at is that you don't sign Russell Wilson, you don't sign Aaron Rodgers, and then now you're sitting there on draft night. Cam Ward went one, Shedeur Sanders went two, and then now you're scratching your head. And if that's the case,
that's an oh shit moment.
And you know what you do if you Brian Daboll? You just start packing your shit your own self, right? Just start packing your bag.
100%. I'm just telling you right now, you think that Saquon Barkley moment was embarrassing? That draft night moment that's going to be the worst is the moment. Because that's what's going to happen. And I know I'm kind of tongue-in-cheek, but mostly being serious because we're now, 10 days into the free agency period, right? You had the negotiating window, then it started. And the Aaron Rodgers thing needs to die. Yeah. It needs to die.
You can't
And you've already had Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston in your building for meetings. So you just gotta have some conviction and you gotta have a plan. And they haven't had a plan in a long time, Keith. And I think that's where I'm like, okay, it's time to figure this out because otherwise the scenario you just played out could happen. And can you imagine if it does?
Yeah, and you look at the NFC East, right? Trying to catch the Eagles, that's fool's gold.
Yes.
But you look at the Cowboys and the Commanders. The Commanders are a quarterback, right?
Yep.
That you try to figure out how we stop him.
Yep.
The Cowboys, just pure dysfunction. But my point is that you can go from last to second with just a couple additions, right? You can't say that Russell Wilson with this Giants defense and Malik Neighbors is a much worse team than what the Commanders have because the Commanders are strictly a quarterback at this point.
Yep.
The Cowboys, all their money is going to be tied into three players.
Yeah.
They're going to
they still haven't signed Micah Parsons
right,
yet.
They still haven't signed Micah Parsons, and they gave their defensive tackle $80 million. Like, that was something they should have done. So, I look at the Giants, and you look at this draft, right? You go Shedeur.
Yeah, sorry I derailed us. I just wanted to. This fell nicely to us, but I want Giants fans to understand that there is a very realistic possibility that they don't have the opportunity to draft the guy at 3. And if they want to get their guy, the only way to do that is to move up.
Yeah, and not only that, but also you want the leverage.
Correct.
You want because what you want to do
you want to have power.
You want to pick up the phone. If you're Joe Sheen, call the GM of the Cleveland Browns, Andrew Berry, and he tells you, I want X amount of draft picks. And you tell him, don't worry about it, we got Russell Wilson. And you hang the phone up.
Correct.
And then you make him call you back with a lesser offer, right? And then now, but if you don't, you're going to lose all leverage because he's going to be like, hey, bro, you really going to do this?
You know what this is? It's like when people say the saying, and I feel like it gets used a lot, but there's never context, the chess, not checkers.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Playing chess is thinking 3 steps ahead.
Yeah.
And that's what being a great GM is. You have to prepare for what ifs on draft night. And you needed to do that before free agency started. You needed to have a plan for any quarterback you wanted to sign. You needed to have a plan for what could happen on draft night. And you need to have options so that you have leverage to be in a position to go, hang up. And make somebody call you back. And it's the GMs that don't have leverage that get caught up. And Joe, we've seen you without leverage, buddy. Yeah. Okay, you don't have a whole lot of leverage right now. So let's work on getting back to that leverage component. Yeah, no friends for sure. 0 friends.
Let's talk offensive tackle, second round. I think Josh Simmons potentially
it's a great fit.
Could be the best offensive tackle in this draft. The only reason why he fell is obviously he's coming off a torn ACL.
Yep.
Third round, Ollie Gordon. Why did I specifically pick Ollie Gordon? Because we had a couple other backs on the board. You're talking about Jarquez Hunter, Cam Scatterboo. I think Ollie is big back, can run in between the tackles, great in pass pro, great catching the football.
Yeah.
And the Giants have a scat back already. So you're talking about you have complementary pieces. You flash back to when the Giants had Brandon Jacobs, the big back, and they had Ahmad Bradshaw, right?
100%.
Like you being able to use those different things.
And Ollie can play in that type of environment, that type of weather. Like he's a back, he wants the ball. And he can catch the damn ball too, which is helpful. Very helpful.
And then you wrap it up with dressing the trenches. Once again, go and get Shamar Turner, a guy that can play defensive end, interior defensive line, be able to push the pocket, stop the run. He's a great complementary piece to Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau.
I think if Mr. Mara If you'd like to hire the consulting services of the Draft Club, Paige Dimakos and Keith Sanchez LLC, please feel free to hit us up in the comments, and we will hit you back because I can assure you, if your draft looks this good, things are going to be looking up. Things are going to be looking up.
100%.
All right, let's look to the end here, what we're going to give them. So we wanted to talk about an off-season grade.
Yeah.
So far. So talk me through how we came up with this together, right? And I'll start with where I'm at right now, right? I borderline want to give them an F because of how bad the Saquon shit was.
Okay, I'm with that.
Like, I'm still on it, and I ain't off it.
Ain't moving.
And I'm going to be honest, I think all the fans are too.
Yeah.
You got to watch continuously. You see a Super Bowl post, you see a celebratory moment, then you see him talking at the Super Bowl media day and having Jameis Winston ask him, yeah, I think the Giants need a quarterback. Like, he has been embarrassing them every step of the way. So for that reason alone, they deserved an F, okay? The reason they're getting a C is because they've made decent moves, nothing splashy. But the reality is, Keith, if they don't get it right at quarterback, and soon, this is going to be an F, no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what.
This going to be F, and I break it down, and I go back to not only Saquon, but even the owner deciding to bring both of those guys
Agreed.
back.
I really thought Joe Sheen was going to lose his job.
Yeah, I mean, everybody did.
I honestly still can't believe I just said that sentence out loud.
Yeah,
like that we're talking about that he's still here.
Yeah, listen, if Joe Sheen could keep his job, everybody keep faith. Baby.
Yeah,
you
no
can
shit.
keep your job too.
No
Don't
shit. And
you
listen,
worry.
I want to be like very serious. I have had this conversation with Bruce Arians. I understand. Like, these people have families. Like, it's hard. You got to move along. But like, you're also getting paid millions of dollars to make decisions, and you made not only a bad decision, you made an atrocious decision. And we all saw it.
So,
we all saw it.
And you know, obviously, I come from the coaching realm.
Yeah,
right?
and that's what I'm going to say. You
I'm
understand this too.
Empathetic and sympathetic to it. It's part of the reason why I got out of it, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I don't care to live in 5 different cities.
Yeah,
in 5
we're good.
Years, right? I'm out on that. But when you can't do the obvious stuff,
yeah,
I had a hard time.
You can't really
excuses for you, right? Like that's tough for me. When you can't, the simple shit.
Yeah, you gotta get that right.
The problem is this: you're in the building, right? You're not a fan, right? You're not virtual.
No.
You see Saquon Barkley every single day.
Yeah.
You go to practice and you watch Daniel Jones every single day. And when you made the decision to say, this guy is really good at football, this guy is kind of bad at football, what I'm going to do is let the really good guy go, and I'm going to pay the really bad guy.
Who wanted to be in New York, too.
Paige,
it's the worst part.
Outside of football, where does that happen? Where?
No, honestly,
about any business and organization,
nowhere.
Where they decide to pay the bad guy a really lot of money, and the good guy he gets fired.
And it's the worst part is like the brand, who he was. Like, Saquon was involved in Fashion Week and all. Like, he was New York. Yep. He was a perfect fit. He loved it. He was crushed by not being there and not feeling like. And you could tell Mr. Mara was gonna have a really tough time saying goodbye to Saquon. And that's why if you're Joe Sheen, you gotta be really damn sure that when you make that move, you made the right move. And there was a reason why old buddy in the scouting room was asking those damn questions. He was asking those damn questions because he knew what the answer was. And he was like, come on, Joe. I think you want to maybe rethink this one, buddy. And then it's the worst case scenario going to the Eagles, and then the Eagles win a Super Bowl. Like, it was like scripted how bad it was, quite frankly.
No, 100%. Well, listen, Paige Dimakos, we fixed the New York Giants on our first episode of Fix My Franchise. We had the Bengals coming up, the Titans, the Raiders. We're going to jump into a couple of teams, right?
We got a lot to talk about.
We might even get into your Chicago Bears.
Off-season grade and A.
Well, listen, I'm Keith Sanchez. That's Paige Dimakos. This is Draft Club. Players only. We fixing franchises.